Alright, in this video I want to talk about hell. Now, the reason why I'm talking about this, because I know a lot of people have gotten into this, is because I heard someone saying that hell is not in the Old Testament. It's a New Testament thing, it's a Christian thing that was used to put fear into people, and yada yada yada, right? And I was like, you know what? Let me look into this. Let me see if hell, as described in the New Testament, is in the Old Testament, right? Because the New Testament basically just clarifies what is already in the Old Testament. It doesn't really add anything new at all. It just makes it clear, right? Everything you find in the New Testament, you can find in the Old Testament. So anyway, let's do that. And right here we have a picture of something that we would depict as hell because it's talked about as a lake of fire, right? And that there is Satan, the false prophet, the beast, and the fallen angels cast into here along with all the lost souls of men and women, right? All in this. And I want to see if we can find something like this described in the Old Testament. So, first thing is first, these are the things that came to mind. In Deuteronomy chapter 4, at verse 24, it says, "For the Lord thy God is a consuming fire." That's something, right? He's a consuming fire. Now, this is going to be pretty much the foundation for this video right here. I know it says even a jealous God. That's something to get into another video. I think this is something interesting, how God is jealous for us. And people look at that as some kind of negative thing, and I do not. I see it like if you had a son or a daughter, and they were looking to your brother or your friend or your brother-in-law or somebody else as more of a father figure than you are. Maybe to your own dad or your grandpa or father-in-law or something like that. You'd be a bit jealous of that. And there's nothing wrong with that unless you use that to get into some kind of sin of some kind, you know? You do something out of jealousy and out of spite. You start to hate somebody else because you're just jealous of them and envious of them, right? But it's good to be jealous for, your own child, right? And wanting their love and affection. Well, like I said, that's for another video. We can get more in depth into that. But it says here, Yahweh, our God, is a consuming fire. It's saying God is a fire, and a consuming one at that, right? That's interesting. When we go to Psalm 139, at verse 7, it says, "Whither shall I go from thy spirit? Or whither shall I flee from thy presence? If I ascend up into heaven, thou art there. If I make my bed in hell, behold, thou art there." Right? So we get this depiction of God being a consuming fire and that he is everywhere, from the highest heaven to the lowest hell. God is there. All right? So we're getting this foundation going here, right? Isaiah 66 verse 24 says, "And they shall go forth and look upon the carcasses of the men that have transgressed against me, for their worm shall not die, neither shall their fire be quenched, and they shall be an abhorring unto all flesh." And this is interesting here. The fire will not be quenched, and their worm will not die, which is kind of interesting, right? These people who have transgressed against God, there's a fire that's not going to be quenched, so it's going to consume them. But it also adds in here, their worm shall not die. So the worms in this place are immortal, and they're just feeding on them forever. That's what it kind of implies here, right? But, let's go on here. I like this passage from Daniel chapter 3. Then was Nebuchadnezzar full of fury, and the form of his visage was changed against Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Therefore he spake and commanded that they should heat the furnace 7 times more than it ought to be heated. And it's interesting that it says 7 times. 7 is like completion. You got the 7 spirits of God. That's kind of interesting there. And it's a fire. God's a consuming fire. And he commanded the most mighty men that were in his army to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and to cast them into the burning fiery furnace. Then these men were bound in their coats, their hosen, and their hats, and their other garments, and were cast into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Therefore, because the king's command was urgent, and the furnace exceedingly hot, the flames of the fire slew those men that took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. That's crazy, right? The people who threw these fellows into the fire, the strong, mighty men of the army, they died not because they were really in the flame so much, but the heat thereof, just getting too close. And these 3 men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fell down bound in the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Then Nebuchadnezzar the king was astonished, and he rose up in haste, and spake, and said unto his counselors, Did not we cast 3 men bound into the midst of the fire? They answered and said unto the king, True, O king. He answered and said, Lo, I see 4 men loose, walking in the midst of the fire, and they have no hurt, and the form of the 4th is like the Son of God. Right? And God is a consuming fire, and consumed the men that obviously sinned against God. But it did not harm Shadrach, Meshach, or Abednego. So, God, being consumed with fire, is everywhere, yet the saints, his children, those who have accepted Jesus, the Son of God, they're not hurt by the fire. They're not hurt by God's presence. But the sinners who have not been cleansed by Jesus can't even get close to that fire without dying. I believe that's a depiction of hell. Is it not? Daniel chapter 12, verse 2, it says, And many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting contempt. Everlasting. So there's some kind of everlasting punishment, right? I mean, we get that depiction of it in the Old Testament. Maybe it's not as straightforward and as urgent as in the New Testament, but it is there. Job chapter 24, verse 19. Drought and heat consume the snow waters, so doth the grave those which have sinned. I say the grave consumes those who have sinned, but it compares the consuming of them as drought and heat. That's interesting there. Psalm 116, verse 3. The sorrows of death compass me, and the pains of hell get hold upon me. I found trouble and sorrow. The pains of hell. So hell is painful, right? Proverbs 30, verse 16. The grave and the barren womb, the earth that is not filled with water, and the fire that saith not, it is enough. So the grave is compared to a barren womb that has no water, but it has fire that never says it's enough. That's insane. Like, it's never enough, right? It's all consuming. That is crazy right there. That's creepy right there. This depiction of it. Like the womb of the earth, which is barren. No water, but fire that is never satisfied. Over here, Songs chapter 8 at verse 6. Did I say Psalms? I meant Song of Solomon. I don't remember what I just said 2 seconds ago. That's crazy. Anyway, the Song of Solomon chapter 8 at verse 6, it says, Set me as a seal upon thine heart, as a seal upon thine arm, for love is strong as death. Jealousy is cruel as the grave. The coals thereof are coals of fire, which hath the most fervent flame. So it says that the grave has coals of fire. It has the most fervent flame. So we get another connection of the grave with fire. Now these next 2 verses I brought up because I found them very interesting, and it's a good way to end this, because this is very gloomy. This is where we're all heading. This is what we all deserve. Hell. And you may not think you do. You may think you're a good person, but who are you comparing yourself to? To me? To me, you might be a good person. If you compare your life to my life, you probably are a better man or woman than I am. You're just better. I'm not going to argue with you with that. I know I'm a shitty human being, and I deserve this. No doubt about it. I don't like it, and I don't want to go there, but I know I deserve it. But if you compare yourself to God, then yeah, you do deserve this. God is the only one that's good. God is the only one that's righteous. If you think you are, then you're committing another sin by thinking you are like God and equal to God. That's blasphemy, isn't it? But anyway, yeah. If this video has creeped you out, it's probably because, you're being convicted here. Me, not so much. I'm at peace with God. And if this is convicting you, I hope you make peace with God. But anyway, let's finish this up here. In Ezekiel chapter 32 at verse 21, it says, The strong among the mighty shall speak to him out of the midst of hell with them that help him. They are gone down, they lie uncircumcised, slain by the sword. Now, this is what stuck out to me. They're in the midst of hell. Why? Because they're uncircumcised and they're slain by the sword. You know what that's telling me from studying the Bible? It's not that they're not circumcised, because physically anyway, because women can't be circumcised. Well, they can, but not in the same way. And it's about being circumcised in spirit, where your soul is cut away from your flesh, right? And that way your body, your flesh, can die, yet you live. And if you want to be attached to your body, then you're uncircumcised and you're going to perish. Just like when God was trucking down after, or I should say the angel of God was trucking down after Moses going to slay his son, and his wife circumcised their son right then and there, and then the angel left, is because that is supposed to be a symbol of you separating yourself from the flesh, because the flesh is at war with God. And that's why you have this anxiety to you when you think about hell, and you just want to deny that it even exists, or just talk about God's love or something like that, because you're at war with God, because you're still attached to your flesh, right? You need to accept Jesus so that that flesh can be nailed to the cross with him, and you can be separated from that. So when your body dies, your soul can live with Jesus. Because if not, your soul is going to be attached to your body. And that's why you are going to suffer in hell. The flames of God will consume you, because you want to be attached to your flesh, which is at war with God. You need to detach from that. You need to deny yourself. And part of that is denying your righteousness, thinking that you're not that bad, thinking that you're good enough, that you deserve better than other people, that you deserve heaven, that you deserve to be in heaven with God, that you deserve all these things. No, you don't. You are self-righteous, and you think you are so high and mighty that you are equal to God. And you need to humble yourself. And that's where this slain by the sword thing comes in here. The sword is the word of God, the Bible. You know, what I've been reading out of this whole time here. And that is what is going to put your flesh to death right there. The word of God, Jesus Christ, he slays the uncircumcised. So, get circumcised. Anyway, let's go to Habakkuk chapter 2 at verse 5. It says, Yea, also because he hath transgresseth mine by wine, and by wine is like teachings. And when Jesus talks about that you don't put new wine into old wineskins, you need to have new wineskins to put the new wine. And that's a metaphor for you accepting the new teachings. And you can't put them in the old wine bottles because the wine bottles will burst. You need to be born again and have a new body and accept the new teachings, right? So they transgress by wine, they transgress by some kind of teaching, some kind of lie, right? Probably self-righteousness. You know, you're good enough to go to heaven. You can earn your way to heaven, right? And it says, Yea, also because he transgresseth by wine, he is a proud man, which adds to that, you know, self-righteous, proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlargeth his desire as hell, enlarges his desire as hell. This is what I wanted to talk about in this verse here. And is as death, and cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people. And I thought this is crazy that it's enlargeth his desire as hell, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied. Hell and death cannot be satisfied. Isn't that crazy, that description there? It basically, what I see here is, from your sin, you cannot pay for it. All right? You start to think you're self-righteous, that you can work your way to heaven. Well, one of the things you would have to do is not just be good from now on, but you have to pay for what you've done. And hell cannot be satisfied, my friend. If you want to pay for your sin and raise yourself from the dead to prove you're good enough, to earn your salvation, to prove you're saved, to prove your faith and what have you, whatever you tell yourself for not accepting Jesus' righteousness, well, you're going to be in hell forever because it can't be satisfied. That's why you need Jesus, because God is infinite, eternal. He can quench the fires of hell. He can take that torment, that punishment for you. And He loves you enough to do it. You know, God created you, and He loves you enough where He wants to be with you forever. You imagine somebody who wants to actually hang out with you forever, literally, not just saying it and meaning this life, until we die. They literally want to hang out with you forever. And they know that you're going to sin, and they take responsibility for that. They created you. They know what you're going to do, so they pay for your sin on your behalf because they know they created you, they love you, they want to spend eternity with you. So He's like, you know what, I'm taking responsibility for what you've done because I'm the one that brought you in the world. You didn't ask to be created, but I created you anyway. I'm going to pay for your sin. So how about it? And that's all you got to do to actually be saved. You just got to have faith that God loves you and that He's going to take you home. That's why Jesus came here, to show us He's not against us, He's for us. That He doesn't want us to sin, but He knows that we're gonna, so He takes responsibility for that because He's our Father, our mother, our brother, our friend, our lover. He takes on our sin and dies, and by doing that, He makes us one with Him. And if you just accept that and just let go of yourself and let your flesh just die, just let it go. Just give your life to Him and just ask Him right here, right now, Jesus, forgive me because I'm a sinner. I have done whatever it is you've done. I imagine you've done everything. You broke all the commandments. All right? You don't have to admit it to anybody else but to God. Admit it to Jesus. Ask Him to forgive you and ask Him to save you. That's all you got to do. Admit to Jesus that you are unrighteous, that you're a sinner. Don't try to act like you're good enough and be like, hey, Jesus, save me. I'm a good guy. I'm a good gal. Humble yourself and admit what you are. Be truthful. Be honest. And ask Him to save you. And if you got trouble doing these things, ask Him to help you. Ask Him to help you humble yourself, to see the truth about yourself. You ask and you will receive. So anyway, I'd like to thank you for watching. I hope you take care. I hope you think about this. I hope you accept Jesus while you still can. It looks like time is speeding up here. Things are really about to hit the fan. So anyway, thanks again for watching and take care.